we get the first aircraft in our Asian War scenario. So we're going to stage play into the air. That's the Commemorative Air Force Douglas R4D 6S that we were talking about earlier, and it's going to be followed off in this scenario, which is otherwise a mixture of sites representing the Korean and the Vietnam Wars. You're asked here to use your imagination a bit. And this they've done. Look out to the left. In comes the bomber, the R4D, and its escort fighter, the Spitfire. over to you.
Thank you both. As the two Boeing Stearman cadets turn downwind a rather larger Boeing aeroplane, B-17 Sally B gets airborne to go and position for its display, to be followed by the P-47, which is going to be joined. Once we've recovered the two Stearmans of Aero Superbatics.
After surveying the aircraft had been named, Sally B was, as ever, not to give up. She decided to carry on operating the B-17, and she has remained its operator ever since. And this season, we mark 50 incredible years for this aeroplane on our display circuit, not just flying at air shows, but also giving memorial flypasts at countless events. And it does so because of Ellie and her team's desire to continue operating this aircraft for as long as possible as a memorial to those who flew these aeroplanes, and indeed to all of those American airmen, thousands upon thousands of them, who died on operations in the European theatre during World War II. But keeping an aircraft like this airworthy in private hands, because this is a privately owned aeroplane, it receives no official support, is a very expensive and very taxing business. Somehow, it's kept on flying, and somehow we enjoy it to this day. Underneath it, Sally B comes into land, over the threshold. Captained today by Dutchman Peter Kuipers, always such fantastic exponent of multi-engine historic aeroplanes. And his first display weekend as co-pilot on the B-17 is that great warbird pilot who we're more used to seeing in fighters like the P-47, Pete Kinsey, who's joined the team for this year. I mentioned Pete Kinsey there, the co-pilot in B-17 today. I spoke to him about flying the P-47, which he's got quite a lot of experience. These are the ways that winning significant weight becomes quite a lot of inertia, but you can use back to your advantage. You can really get it going in a high-speed dive, fly through at high speed, for example, in a strafing run against the target during landing on the P-47D, some whole aviation engineering. And another arrival, hopping in over the M11, is an air successor to the biplane 4 display act, which was flown by that great organisation which has done, continues to do so much for the cause of recreational sport flying in Bristol, the Tiger Club. For a time, an accomplished pilot called Chris Jessup led the team. doing those sorts of displays. We still see them on the circuit with their turbulence, which will back our flying day here in May. Displaying Cat 10 around the circuit, which we've also seen here in the past. But the commanding officer of Squadron Leader Squadron Leader Jeffrey Stevenson, two Aero Legend Spitfires now landing on. It was to be his and that aircraft's only operational sortie. 1st of May, again by a message from the F-109, again crash landed on one of the Dunkirk beaches. The Spitfire was the subject of a lengthy restoration by the aircraft restoration company, the Hurricane Line, Hawker Restoration. Because the two Apaches that we just saw come from the Army Flying Station at Wattisham in Suffolk, and the Bristol Blenheim, which is taxiing towards the hard runway right now, is an aircraft type of... to his name because he was the last new pilot who trained on the Tornado GR4. Display has concluded. The Typhoon, very active combat asset for the RAF at present. Particularly topical right now are the air policing missions that the force undertakes on behalf of NATO. The Typhoon squadrons, based both at Coningsby and at RAF Ossiemouth in Scotland, have been regular contributors to Baltic and Icelandic air policing, and they've carried out multiple deployments to Eastern Europe since the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Pushing up into a negative G half Cuban. Once again, negative G, so uncomfortable. Accelerating into operator B class. Punching in the reheat on the two EJ200 engines and showing us just how quickly the aircraft can accelerate because he'll be climbing into a slow speed loop. Down to 100 feet, afterburners engaged, accelerating to some 600 miles an hour. Squadron leader Nathan Scheuer from number 29 Squadron with the Eurofighter Typhoon FGR